By 2005, Ubisoft had grown Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell into one of its flagship franchises. With 3 critically and commercially successful games in the bag, the most recent of which, Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, being regarded by many as the best in the series, a 4th entry was all but guaranteed. And with the dawn of a new generation of consoles, Ubisoft was not only eager to take advantage of new and old hardware, but also give the series a big shakeup. The next Splinter Cell would introduce a more emotionally driven narrative, with Sam Fisher going undercover in a ruthless terrorist organization, and feature a radical new gameplay system revolving around player choice. The result was one of the most peculiar chapters in this franchise's history: Splinter Cell Double Agent. But Double Agent wasn't peculiar just because of the fresh new take. It was peculiar because it was a fresh new take that resulted in 2 very different products. This video will differ from my previous Splinter Cell efforts, in that I will not be examining one game, but rather 2. Splinter Cell Double Agent for 7th gen consoles, and Splinter Cell Double Agent for 6th gen consoles. 1 fresh concept, 2 different developers, 2 separate Splinter Cells. In this video, we'll be taking a deep dive into both versions, discussing the merits of each and comparing their differing approaches to shared concepts, all in an effort to answer one question: which Double Agent is the best? So get comfy, grab yourself a drink, and prepare to go undercover. It's sneaky time. Yes, there are 2 different versions of Splinter Cell Double Agent. Nope, one isn't a port of the other. These are 2 entirely different games. Yes, they share the same basic premise, characters, and plot, along with some gameplay concepts and presentational aspects. But past that, they differ quite a bit. So, how did this happen? Well, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of information out there on Double Agent's development, so I can't tell you the specifics that went into this decision. But if we look at the business practices of Splinter Cell's publisher, Ubisoft, I think we can make an educated guess. Splinter Cell Double Agent was released in October of 2006, around the dawn of the 7th generation of video game consoles, specifically the Xbox 360, which had been out a year at that point, and the PlayStation 3, that was set to release the following month. Ubisoft historically has been among the first publishers, pridefully so, to embrace a new console generation, often releasing a slew of titles in the first wave. However, this doesn't mean they immediately abandoned the last generation. No. Capitalizing on the larger install base, they've always had last-gen versions of their next-gen titles ready to go. We saw this very practice with the launch of the most recent console hardware, as well as the generation before that, and the generation before that. Now, majority of the time, the last-gen versions are just ports of the next-gen versions, but with the 6th to 7th gen changeover, we did see Ubisoft create unique versions of their last-gen efforts. For example, Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter. This is likely because it would have been too difficult, or impossible, to port them from their next-gen counterparts. Ubisoft titles of this time were trying to be showcases for the amazing things next-gen hardware could do, and it could be reasoned that they didn't want the vastly underpowered last-gen hardware to hold back their next-gen games in order to achieve parity. Something publishers and developers still wrangle with today, although not quite as severely. It still doesn't totally explain why these versions turned out so different, but I do think it's one of the main culprits. One thing is certain, it sure does make for fertile ground for a YouTube video. Now, before we get cracking, there are some housekeeping things I want to go over, such as what I will and won't be covering, the hardware I chose for each version, as well as address the multiplayer content. If you don't really care about those things, I have timecodes below so you can skip ahead. First, this is the 4th entry in my Splinter Cell review retrospective series, meaning it builds off my previous videos, and if you haven't seen them, I recommend you watch those first. Both versions of Double Agent largely bring over, or flat out recycle, many of the aspects of the previous 3 games, and thus I am only going over the aspects that are unique to Double Agent, as well as returning aspects from the previous games that either have been changed or used in new ways. So if at any point you're wondering why I'm not talking about a certain mechanic, system, or gadget, it's because I've likely gone over it before and have nothing new to add. Second, in my previous videos I played the PC versions of Splinter Cell, largely for the visual quality and because they are my personal preference. However, the PC edition of Double Agent's next-gen version is not great. This was actually the first version of Double Agent I played, and I remember it being a buggy, badly performing mess. There are some fixes for it available, but many of the problems still remain. So for this video, I'm sticking to the more stable Xbox 360 version, played through back compat on Xbox Series X. The same goes for the last gen version. I am playing the OG Xbox version through Series X back compat. Last, multiplayer. Both versions of Double Agent feature multiplayer modes, but for this video, I'm just sticking to the single player content. There are some practical reasons why, chiefly that the servers for Double Agent Spies vs. Mercs mode are currently shut down, and the co-op campaign for the last gen version, which I highly recommend because it's a blast, is essentially an expansion on the co-op campaign from Chaos Theory, largely recycling its mechanics and assets. To cover it would mean repeating a lot of the stuff I said about the co-op campaign in my last video. But really, the main reason is that with the scope of this video and the amount of content in it, I just feel delving into multiplayer would be too much. Okay, with all of that out of the way, let's hard cut to black. Something I feel is important before we really dive in is to briefly review the developers of Double Agent, what they had contributed to the series thus far, and more importantly, what their distinct approaches to Splinter Cell was. The 7th gen version of Double Agent, for the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and PC, was developed by Ubisoft Shanghai, and the 6th gen version, Xbox, PlayStation 2, Gamecube, as well as the Wii, was developed by Ubisoft Montreal. To keep things simple and clean, from this point on, I will be referring to the 7th gen version as version A and the 6th gen version as version B. Ubisoft Montreal was the lead of the franchise, having developed the original game. With their next effort, Chaos Theory, the third in the series, they would rebuild, refine, and some would say perfect the mechanics of the first game. Ubisoft Shanghai entered the franchise by developing ports for the first game on PlayStation 2 and Gamecube, which were both well received and included several quality of life features that would become standards for future games. Following their work on the ports, they were tasked with developing the second game in the series while Montreal was hard at work on Chaos Theory, Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow, a sequel that stuck close to the design of the original game but polished its mechanics and broadened its graphical presentation. I've always felt that Montreal's take on Splinter Cell was to match the quote-unquote realistic political techno-spy thriller feel of the Tom Clancy universe. And just to be clear, the Tom Clancy universe as of 2002, back when it was highly technical political military fiction and not the action-heavy speculative fiction it is today. When Shanghai took the reins with Pandora, they wanted to respect the tactical stealth feel of the first game and not stray far from its mechanics. But for their Splinter Cell, they wanted to have a more cinematic feel and inject the experience with memorable set-piece moments. Their Splinter Cell would be less political spy thriller and more action movie spy thriller. Less Jack Ryan and more Mission Impossible, if that makes sense. In many ways, it was a prelude to the tonal shift the Tom Clancy gaming franchise would see in the coming years. And for Double Agent, they would double down on this more cinematic style. Now, the reason I wanted to point this out early is that in no other part of Double Agent is the difference between these developers more apparent than the opening mission in Iceland.
Why? Should I be?
Iceland is quite the cold open, literally. The setup is basically the same in both versions. Sam, along with another agent, has been deployed to Iceland to investigate a geothermal plant where possible terrorist activity is going down. The beginning of version A is like something out of a blockbuster action movie. Sam, teamed with a cocky young Splinter Cell named John Hodge, infiltrate the plant by jumping from a plane into frigid waters. From there, they swim into the perimeter and begin icing guards through the ice.
Back on air. Is everything okay?
Loud and clear.
I thought we were just here for observation.
There have been slight changes.
Version B is a little more chilled out. Okay, I'm done with the ice puns, I promise. Sam, along with Hisham Hanza, a snarky veteran Splinter Cell, infiltrate by rappelling down a glacier and enter the plant through a dugout ice cave. Wow, take a look at that plant graphic. That's, wow.
It's only a model. Shh.
Much like the opening lighthouse of Chaos Theory, Montreal designed their Iceland mission to serve as a giant hidden tutorial. Each section of it is meant to teach the player pretty much all of the mechanics and gadgets of the game. It's executed brilliantly. Each tutorial actually feels like something you would encounter in a normal mission. None of the design feels arbitrary, and overall it makes for an enjoyable and informative mission. Since version A has a dedicated tutorial that looks like something out of the Matrix, Shanghai throws you right into the action. But you still get opportunities to try out the basics, like using your optic cam and ziplining. Following that, there's a brief section of tiptoeing around guards and defenses, and here the player can test out their offensive capabilities if they wish.
Alert! Alert! We have an intruder!
When Sam finally gets inside the facility, we see Shanghai asserting their style, as the opening goes from Tom Clancy to Mission Impossible in a matter of seconds. We witness firsthand why it's bad for a Splinter Cell to be cocky and impatient, as poor John meets his violent end. Ah, poor guy, we barely knew ya.
He did not break.
No, but he died, and this was totally avoidable.
We then learn that the terrorists have initiated the launch of a missile that will kill hundreds. Sam only has 7 minutes to stop the launch. There's a few ways the player can go about doing this, but my preference is to channel my inner Ethan Hunt and upside down rope rappel to the missile. From there, Sam programs the missile to detonate on launch and extracts by rope. It's a short but spectacular opening for Sam's 4th outing. When Sam enters the plant in version B, things stay mellow, with the sort of moody atmosphere we've come to expect from a Montreal Splinter Cell. There's no threat of a missile launch or a dead Splinter Cell buddy, although his fate will come into play, just you wait. This is primarily an intelligence gathering mission, and Sam will have to find out all he can by sleuthing through shadows and a blazing furnace, all while the terrorists go about their daily tasks none the wiser. He eventually learns the facility is dealing in red mercury, a fictional substance that is able to create nuclear weapons without the use of plutonium and uranium. Yeah, it's a real dangerous MacGuffin. And it just so happens a buyer is on site, a mysterious southerner named Emile Dufresne.
It appears that these idiots in Iceland have been burgled. Enrica and I are coming back immediately. Meet us at MSY.
Version B's ICELAND is a little bittersweet for me in that it's the last traditional Splinter Cell mission the series would see. Both versions serve as Sam's last mission with 3rd Echelon, but version B feels like a throwback in so many ways. The plant visually reminds me of the cold industrial places Sam would venture into in the original game, not to mention he's in his classic sneaking suit, with Lambert guiding him throughout. I mean, not to get too ahead of myself, but the next time we see Sam as a Splinter Cell, he's in a new organization that he's the boss of, with a totally different gameplay style. It's a nostalgic mission that I love to soak in, especially before its conclusion. When Sam obtains the list of buyers for the red mercury, he decides to go after the man in charge of the plant, when suddenly Lambert orders him to extract.
I said abort. You too, Hamza. You are to extract immediately.
The mission was to find the weapons. We haven't done that yet.
What's going on?
We have enough. I'm canceling your remaining objectives.
Like hell you are.
It's a surprising moment. In past games, Lambert never pulled something like this, and with the music shifting to a more dramatic tone, it's a clue to the player that something has happened. Sam extracts to the Osprey where Lambert is waiting, and our anti-hero learns the tragic, life-changing news.
I broke the news when I pulled him out of Iceland. He didn't take it well. Nobody would, losing their own flesh and blood. And he'd never be the same again.
When Shanghai took on Double Agent, they felt Splinter Cell had gone as far as it could in terms of gameplay, and for it they wanted to create something that was uncharted territory for the series. Splinter Cell narratives up to this point were largely plot-driven, and Shanghai wanted to change that and make a Splinter Cell with a more emotionally driven, character-focused story, which admittedly is something I've always wanted the series to explore. However, to facilitate this in Double Agent, the nuclear option was chosen, and it's a choice I've always raised an eyebrow at. The basic plot goes like this. While Sam is away on a mission, his only daughter Sarah is struck and killed by a drunk driver. Sam, of course, is devastated. He leaves the NSA and finds his life in shambles. Wanting to help his longtime friend and colleague, Irving Lambert offers Sam a dangerous assignment that he hopes will pull him out of the darkness. He wants Sam to become a non-official cover operative, or NOC, and infiltrate the American terrorist organization known as the JBA. Having nothing to lose anymore, Sam accepts. The NSA forges a criminal history for him, and before long, the former Splinter Cell finds himself in the ranks of the JBA, tasked with bringing them down from the inside.
Where's the emergency lighting? Someone get to the generator and put it back online.
Both versions of Double Agent share the same basic plot points and characters, but otherwise do their own thing with the story, making for two distinct narrative experiences. For the most part, Shanghai depicted their narrative in a fairly straightforward manner, with the events carrying out in real time. Whereas Montreal depicts the whole game as a flashback during a heated phone conversation between Sam and the NSA director, Lawrence Williams.
Lambert ordered you out? Just like that?
My daughter was dead.
And how does that take precedence over matters of national security?
I've always preferred Montreal's take on the narrative, as there's more of an effort on their part to connect and motivate everything. For example, the ICELAND mission in version A is its own self-contained event that isn't connected to anything else in the story. But in version B, it's used as more of a proper setup. We learn of the JBA and its leader, Emile Dufresne, because he's on site to buy the Red Mercury. And alongside Sarah's death, this serves as one of the major catalysts for Sam going undercover. In version A, Sam going undercover is just a random assignment. For the most part, things happen for a reason in version B, and in version A, a lot of things just happen, making it feel disjointed in comparison. Unfortunately, much of version B's storytelling feels compromised, possibly the result of a rushed schedule. The flashback cutscenes depicted with 2D motion graphics feel like an 11th hour choice to get the game shipped, especially considering they're contrasted with highly produced CG cutscenes exclusive to that version. I'd be willing to bet the original plan was to have more of these CG cutscenes in the game, but either time or money ran out and they decided to go for the quick and dirty 2D route. Also, Sarah's death is something I've always felt uncomfortable about. Using the emotional weight of her death to change Sam is certainly effective. Any Splinter Cell fan knows Sarah is Sam's heart, the one person that grounds him as a human being and keeps him from being just another murderous cog in the system. The thing is, up to this point, Sarah Fisher was barely developed as a character. Honestly, the most we had seen of her up to this point was a few brief cutscenes and a handful of phone conversations. Past just being Sam's daughter, there's barely anything to her, and killing her off to motivate the events of this game comes off as cheap and clumsy. Frankly, she's a glorified plot device that has only existed to die. Perhaps if she was more prominent in previous games, and if we saw Sam actually wrangle with her death and grow from it in a meaningful way, then perhaps it wouldn't feel so one note. But in truth, we didn't, and he doesn't. He may be undercover and grieving, but Sam behaves no differently than his past incarnations, and it's a shame. We really could have seen a new side to him, but the opportunity isn't really taken. It all comes off as forced and unnecessary. In my opinion, if Shanghai wanted a more emotional tale, they didn't need to go for the nuclear option. I would have preferred if they had gone deeper with Sam's interpersonal relationships with his third echelon team, and developed some conflict between them to add more weight, something Chaos Theory tiptoed into and later games in the series would embrace. We'll speak more on the narrative as we progress through this video, but in general, the whole thing feels like a solid concept with underwhelming surface level execution. While both Double Agents present a different spin on Splinter Cell, in terms of gameplay, both stay pretty close to the playbook of their predecessors, and in many cases, flat out reuse it. For version B, Montreal essentially recycled all of the code from Chaos Theory, with the majority of animations and assets returning. It plays identically to Chaos Theory, so much so you'd be forgiven for thinking you were playing a Chaos Theory expansion. My guess is that this was a decision stemming from time and budget constraints. Seeing as Montreal had only released Chaos Theory the previous year, it can be presumed that they had around, or maybe a little less than a year, to develop version B. Considering all the games up to this point had around 2 to 3 years of development time, this would have been a very aggressive schedule, and not having to create new gameplay systems and assets from scratch likely cut down development time significantly. It's possible development for version B started during Chaos Theory, but even then it still would have been a sprint to complete. On top of that, since version B wasn't the premier version of Double Agent, with version A used in all the marketing, the budget was probably pretty slim on this one, once again influencing Montreal to recycle everything from Chaos Theory to keep costs down. Sure, it isn't really a step forward, and it doesn't have that feeling of newness compared to version A, but Chaos Theory played amazing, and so does this, and it's fine by me. Version A was a noticeable update, with graphics that were then cutting edge, mechanics tweaked throughout, and many animations and assets created from scratch. The big addition in Sam's moveset is his ability to swim. Controlling Sam underwater is fine. It's a bit slow and weighty, but otherwise behaves as you would hope. The highlight of swimming is more so the level design that comes with it. While they aren't as common in the game as one might hope, Sam will navigate some sizable bodies of water and be presented with unique ways to take out enemies, like pulling them under the ice, a move I never get tired of. Version B was left out of the swimming fun, but does include some new aquatic-based kills, like grabbing an enemy and plunging them under ice. It's moments like these I remember just how scary of a human being Sam really is. My favorite new move is Version A's corner grab. It's real satisfying to pull off and easily has the best interrogation animation, where if Sam has an enemy on the ground, he just knocks on their head to make them talk. It looks so funny to me. Knock knock, tell me all your secrets. One of the best aspects of Chaos Theory was the Closer Than Ever system, which utilized the camera and a unique animation system to allow players to get very close to enemies and have a sense for how to move around them with precision. As I pointed out in my video for it, the combination of the camera focusing on the enemy and being able to control Sam's animation frame by frame is what really made this system work and feel good. Closer Than Ever is exactly the same in Version B. Awesome. And while it returns in Version A, it's not quite as sharp. Just like in Chaos Theory, when Sam approaches an enemy, the camera soft locks on them and Sam will begin to tense up and tiptoe. However, if the player stops moving, he returns to a resting position, making for that janky little lurch as Sam gets closer and closer. You don't control Sam frame by frame anymore, and the slight delay in movement this causes can mean the difference in getting caught. Compared to Chaos Theory or Version B, if the player stops, their position is held, and if they need to move away quickly, the animation cycles back instantly. Version A just doesn't have the same precision. It's not a huge deal. Version A's Closer Than Ever is still a useful aid in close quarter situations, but it is a bummer that Shanghai wasn't able to match and improve upon this system. In general, Version A just isn't as tight and responsive of a gameplay experience compared to Chaos and Version B. The biggest culprit is that there's a slight bit of input lag. It's not enough to significantly hurt gameplay, but for me it was noticeable and makes playing feel lethargic at times, which is disappointing. And the camera is a bit problematic too. In many spots, it's just too close to Sam, at times needlessly obscuring the player's vision. It's more of an issue in the earlier levels, but remains an annoyance throughout the game. If you are playing on PC, however, this is something that can be improved. In terms of weapons and gadgets, pretty much everything has been carried over from Chaos Theory. Sam still has his trusty knife and 5.7 pistol, complete with EMP, as well as the staple SC-20K, with all the attachments and launchers. A new thing though is the red dot sight included in Version A, which is handy for some of the more violent missions. A new gadget in Version A is the Glass Cutter, allowing you to cut holes in glass like Michelle Pfeiffer and slip through them. And I have a funny feeling a few of you watching are going, wait, there's a Glass Cutter? Indeed, while the Glass Cutter is a cool addition, there aren't many spots in this game where you'll honestly need it, and you'd be forgiven for going through the whole experience and never realizing you had it. What you will get more use out of though is the ultrasonic emitter. Only in Version A, this sucker essentially shoots whistles, meant to distract and lead away guards. Do not sleep on this gadget. It can be the secret weapon in some of Double Agent's most challenging stealth puzzles. Version A features a new version of the number hunting hacking minigame from Chaos Theory, which I prefer as it's a little more straightforward and easy to figure out. Version B though features a brand new hacking minigame where you have to match the size of waves with your joysticks. This can be a little tricky to get a hang of at first, but when you do, you'll be proud of how fast you can roll through these hacking minigames. A cool thing about Version A is that it features gadget upgrades based on your mission rewards. Every mission has star objectives, and the rewards for completing them are upgrades to your gear, essentially making them more powerful and more convenient. For instance, the lockpick can be upgraded so that it happens automatically. Yeah, it ends up trivializing lockpicking in this game, but at the same time, after 3 games and hundreds of lockpicks, I don't mind taking a back seat and letting the game handle it. The ultimate upgrade is the colorized night vision, which is pretty dang sweet, but I suspect Shanghai made the normal night vision kinda terrible to make this more impressive. Seriously, look at this. Is this really improving visibility? I feel like they just put a blown out green filter over the screen and called it a day. I mean, compare it to the night vision in version B, and the difference between green and gray is night and day. Version A features a regenerative health system. Not too surprising, as it was all the rage in games at this time. As you might have noticed, Shanghai eliminated most of the HUD for version A, more than likely to simplify and give the game a more cinematic look. But what's really a shocker is that it eliminates the light and sound meters. The light meter was a staple of Splinter Cell, letting the player know how visible they are within a wide range. And the sound meter let players know how loud environmental sound was to tip them off to how fast or slow they can move within it. In Double Agent, the sound meter is gone and the light meter simplified to a binary system. If the light on Sam's back, or in the bottom left corner, is green, he's completely hidden. Only making noise, touching a guard, or doing an aggressive action will give him away. If it's yellow, he's visible. However, strong weather and things like smoke can help obscure a player in yellow visibility. And if it's flashing red, well, that just means you're caught and getting shot.
You just worry about the bomb.
I don't hate a binary system. In fact, the following games used something similar that was pretty effective. However, that was tailored to the more fast-paced mechanics and flow of those titles. Here, I think it was unnecessary to change this system. I don't think it adds to or improves the stealth gameplay. And in fact, it kind of eliminates those tense middle ground moments. You know, when your visibility is floating near the center and you have to use your best judgment as to whether you can slip by unseen, making for some heart-pounding but rewarding stealth moments. Here, moments like those are few and far in between. And while perhaps some of the means of cover and yellow visibility offer something like that, without precisely knowing how hidden you are, these moments can be uncomfortable and stressful. It also doesn't help that the shadows in this game are really inconsistent in terms of which will hide you and which won't. This is more of an irritation in the daytime missions, which were a big feature of version A. Some shadows look like you can hide in them but only give you yellow visibility, and some shadows look like you can't hide in them and yet give you the green. It's a little annoying on a first time playthrough. Also, eliminating the sound meter is just silly. Getting in tune with that in Chaos Theory was a huge aspect of getting good at that game, and I don't know what Shanghai was trying to accomplish by making sound a guessing game again. Perhaps Shanghai wanted to take Splinter Cell vets out of their comfort zone and stop them from relying on these things to up the challenge, which is respectable, but the thing is, being in tune with your meters was a big part of what set Splinter Cell apart from other stealth titles and made it feel deeper and more tactical. And for me, stripping away or simplifying these things takes away a big part of the enjoyment. To throw players a bone, there is a new map that can be turned on at any time, revealing the positions of guards. It updates slowly though and won't work while moving, so its usefulness varies. But you know what? A map was never necessary in the previous games, because it was up to the player to assess where the enemies were and where they could go based on shadow cover and environmental sound, with their meters aiding. And needing a map in the first place should have been a clue to Shanghai that this new system was not the best course. I think we can file this one in the "if it ain't broke, don't fix it" category. Fortunately, version B retains the light and sound meters, but they have received a redesign. The light meter is now represented by a silhouette of Sam. The brighter he is, the more visible. The darker, the more hidden, with the sound meter curving along the side. I don't love this HUD design. I think it's overdone, and Sam's silhouette comes off as goofy to me. I wish Montreal stuck to the HUD style of past games. But overall, I'm happy I have my meters.
We put Sam in Ellsworth prison, not because he was a thief or a murderer, but because we needed him there.
Ellsworth is one of the big hooks of Splinter Cell Double Agent, taking Sam Fisher, elite US soldier who has saved the world countless times from bad guys, and throwing him into a high-security prison with the worst of them, complete with a shaved head and orange jumpsuit. In this novel mission, Sam's objective is to escape this prison alongside fellow inmate and JBA member Jamie Washington, with the hopes that Sam will gain his trust and be invited into the JBA. A prison escape with nothing more than your bare hands and wits? It's certainly a scenario that can make any Splinter Cell diehards salivate. And indeed, both versions execute on this mission in their own distinct ways.
Fisher, you there? It's Jamie. Listen up, man, because I got a plan to get us out of here.
In version A, things get cooking right off the bat. Jamie approaches Sam with a hasty scheme and plenty of bad intentions to make it work. Both men will kick off a prison riot with the intention of using it as cover to escape.
If you screw me, there are gonna be a lot of people looking for you.
Got it.
You better. Now take this stuff and get your ass moving.
After agreeing to the plan and snagging a shiv off Jamie, Sam does his best Andy Dufresne impression and slips through a dugout tunnel hidden behind a poster. Which is a little obvious if you ask me. What, none of these guards have seen Shawshank? Luckily, Sam doesn't have to crawl through a football field length of filth, but rather up the ventilation to the ceiling, with Jamie's handiwork playing out below him, in what I feel is a flex of this version taking advantage of the then cutting-edge next-gen hardware, with numerous bodies fighting each other and chairs being flung. Quite the sight. Version A's Ellsworth is depicted as a state-of-the-art facility. Its interior feels utterly devoid of humanity, made up of cold gray steel and concrete. There are rows upon rows of cells stacked atop each other with looming guard towers and high-tech security measures. It's an intimidating fortress, but far from the scariest Sam has tackled.
He's already talking about introducing me to his friends in the JBA, particularly the boss, Emile Dufresne.
For version B, Montreal opted not to throw the player into the red-hot beginnings of the riot, but rather the smoldering final hours, making for an Ellsworth mission that is less flashy than version A's, but is more fleshed out and suspenseful. At the beginning, Jamie and Sam are in the final preparations of their escape plan, and have one more task to complete before they can execute.
Last time we grabbed the walkie-talkie. Where to this time?
I'm going back to the guard booth. What's the point of having only one walkie-talkie?
So, like version A, Sam slips out through a hole in the wall, although this one is a lot better hidden, just saying, and climbs through the inner workings of the prison to snag the walkie. As you can see, version B's Ellsworth is a grungier prison, older, grittier, and dirtier. Where version A's feels unfeeling and oppressive, version B's feels haunted, decaying, and hopeless. After you whisk away the walkie, you have a brief sesh with Lambert and save Jamie from certain death in the game's first major instance of choice. More on that in just a bit. Following the aforementioned ruckus, Sam wakes up with Jamie in the infirmary with the prison already besieged by the riot, and they are finally ready to make their escape.
How'd you get in here?
Version A's take on the escape is brief compared to version B's, but keeps the emphasis on excitement and chaos, requiring a lot of careful, patient sneaking. There's a shootout between the guards and the inmates to get around, which can be a little bit of a pain, but a good old smoke grenade is enough to get you by it. The main feature of this level is ascending the spiral staircase of the guard tower. Here, players will find several close-quarters situations where they can narrowly slip past the guards, or just say screw it and use force. Here you can snag a weapon only found in this level and only in this version.
Non-lethal shotgun. Good.
It's okay. Not the most satisfying weapon, especially since it takes a few shots to bring the guards down, but it is a good alternative to your knife and fists. Be cautious though, a close-quarters headshot can kill.
Yes, I won't do anything. I didn't ask for this. I'll go back to my cell. Hey!
Version B leans more towards a typical slow-burn Splinter Cell mission, with lots of shadowy halls and isolated guards patrolling. You get to see a lot more of the prison in this version, like the prison workshop, chapel, guard break rooms, and even the gas chamber, which you have to rescue Jamie from. Compared to version A's straightforward layout, version B feels like you're going through a maze. Unlike version A, much of it has you working with Jamie directly, with co-op maneuvers recycled from Chaos Theory's co-op mode, which version A also has, but not to this extent. While Jamie is vulnerable to being seen by the guards, with his death obviously leading to a game over, the truth is, with the two of you together, most of the guards don't stand a chance, especially with how trigger-happy Jamie is. The conclusion of this mission in both versions is another example of Montreal's and Shanghai's differing approaches to Splinter Cell. For version B, Sam and Jamie literally escape through a hole in the wall, a section of the prison undergoing renovations. In version A, Sam rescues Jamie from a guard, and finding that their hasty plan has left them cornered on a rooftop, they hijack a news helicopter that just happened to be there. And that's that. Feels like it was ripped straight out of a 90s action movie. ELLSWORTH is a mission I've always felt a little let down by in both versions. Frankly, I've always wished it was a bigger part of the game, and not just a single mission. Version B is my preference of the two, as there's a lot more to it. We actually get a taste of Sam's prison life and get to take part in some of the preparation for the big escape. But I can't help but wish we got to see the prison chapter from the start. The moment Sam arrives, first befriending Jamie, forming the plan, and then doing all the preparation. Like a Splinter Cell take on Escape from Butcher Bay or A Way Out, but far more truncated, of course. Version A, though, just feels like a footnote in the game. The actual level is really short, and the design is fairly boring. You pretty much deal with a couple square rooms and then a big spiral staircase, and that's it. I mean, in version B, you're actually making your way through most of the prison, and it feels a lot more tense and suspenseful. I also don't buy that Sam and Jamie would have succeeded in version A. While there was some preparation for it, their plan is essentially cooked up in a matter of minutes, and pretty much just boils down to, if you start stuff over there, and I start stuff over here, yeah, we could probably get out. In version B, Sam and Jamie have been planning their escape over the course of 3 weeks. Plus, you find out that Third Echelon is secretly aiding in the escape, with a team of Splinter Cells on site. There's simply more of an effort in this version to make this escape believable.
It's not an easy situation for you, but I wouldn't trust the Red Mercury to anyone else.
Beyond the novel concept, what also makes this level notable is that it introduces players to the big, shiny new feature of both double agents: the trust system. Moral choices are nothing new in Splinter Cell. The simple but core dilemma of all the games is whether or not to kill when you are able to. And even the game's central narrative concept, the fifth freedom, the right to steal and murder to safeguard your own country, naturally lends itself to a moral debate. But the early games in the series featured more explicit moments of moral dilemma that presented players with a choice. In the Jerusalem mission of Pandora Tomorrow, Sam is suddenly ordered to execute Dahlia Tal, an agent of the Israeli secret police. Whether or not he goes through with it is up to the player. And in Chaos Theory's Soul mission, players can choose to go against Lambert's orders to rescue 2 pilots from certain death after their jet is shot down. Double Agent is essentially designed around moments like these, and for a game about going undercover and having to sometimes do bad to do good, it naturally lends itself to tough moral dilemmas and agonizing choices.
The JBA has to trust you, but so does the assistant director. If the JBA suspects you are a traitor, or if Williams thinks you are playing too risky, then it's over either way.
The basic concept for the trust system is the same in both versions. Each mission, Sam will have objectives from both the NSA and JBA, and often these objectives conflict with each other. For example, the JBA might want you to plant a bomb, but the NSA will want you to sabotage it. Appeasing one side could mean sacrificing the trust of another, and the player will have to make a choice and deal with its consequences. In version A, trust is represented by 2 separate meters, one for the JBA and one for the NSA. The goal is to keep these meters as full as possible by completing objectives and side objectives. Going against the orders of an organization will deplete their trust, and stealth snafus can slice some slivers off of it too, like triggering alerts or killing when ordered not to. If a meter depletes entirely, it's game over.
There's no place here for someone who can't be trusted.
In version B, the meter is a single bar with one side representing the JBA and the other NSA, with a slider in the middle representing the player standing with them. Like version A, completing or not completing objectives affects trust, but here it's more of a clear balancing act. Gaining trust in one organization means losing it in the other, no matter what. I do think both these systems do a good job in representing trust, but I prefer the single meter approach of version B. I just like the idea that gaining trust in one organization inherently means losing it in the other. In my opinion, it gives your choices more weight. A big thing to note is, unlike version A, if the slider fully goes to one side, it's not game over. At least not immediately. The player will have to drop everything and complete a timed loyalty objective. They'll have a little over 90 seconds to locate any laptop in the level and communicate with either handler to, I suppose, calm them down and prove their loyalty. Fail to do so, and it's game over. The first time this happened to me, it definitely got my heart pumping. As soon as I saw that timer pop up, it was like, oh crap, where was that stupid laptop? However, my excitement for these moments diminished quickly when I realized all of them are a mad dash to a computer and nothing else. In all fairness though, this situation is not all that common, at least it wasn't for me. I don't think I even encountered it the first time I played this version of Double Agent, and it really wasn't until I was doing playthroughs for this video where I was being overly bad or overly good to compare that it started happening. Still, it would have been nice to have more variety.
I'm convinced for the time being, but I caution you to improve your performance.
In Double Agent's pre-release days, the hype for it was that these choices would affect the story in major ways and allow the player to steer the course of it. Really, when you break it down, it was a promise of replayability. Play the game one way, and after you finish, go back, make different choices, and get a different game. Trust certainly has an effect on Double Agent's story, but is it a welcome addition to the formula, or just a gimmick? Well, we're gonna answer just that. Through the course of this video, I will be discussing the major choices of each mission and whether or not they have a substantial effect on the game, starting with Sam's moral dilemma in ELLSWORTH Penitentiary.
I know the guys were rough on you coming in, but this isn't the answer.
Version A's choice is honestly nothing to write home about. When Sam reaches the guard tower, he can open all the cells, freeing all the inmates, intensifying the riot to give him and Jamie more cover, but obviously causing more damage and danger to the guards. Unfortunately, this doesn't really affect the mission in any meaningful way other than gaining more JBA trust. Version B is more elaborate and consequential. Jamie is attacked by an inmate named Barham, whom the NSA wants alive. Consequences of this choice are twofold. If Sam spares Barham, when he wakes up in the infirmary, Jamie will refuse to give him a gun and instead lend him the lockpick, forcing us to sit back and watch Jamie shoot every guard he comes across.
Got it!
This is it.
But going into the next mission, Sam will have more equipment from the NSA. If Sam kills Barnham, Jamie will trust him with the gun, but the NSA will withhold equipment for the next mission. Although, Jamie will still have a gun in this scenario no matter what, which is a little annoying. Him killing guards and drawing attention felt like a punishment in and of itself for not killing Barnham. While Version A's moral choice is underwhelming, Version B is a solid start and promises greater dilemmas with wilder outcomes for the rest of the game. Does it live up? Well, we'll just have to find out.
Okay, Sam, here's the deal. I've got some friends. They call themselves John Brown's Army. I can get you in with us, if you're interested. And I'm thinking you just might be.
Following ELLSWORTH, players are thrust into some true undercover action with the introduction of the JBA headquarters missions. Here, Sam will have to sneak around under the noses of his comrades to gather intel, find ways to undermine the JBA's progress, and of course, protect his cover. And as you may suspect by now, both versions approach this concept in wholly different ways.
Sam, what's your status?
I'm inside the restricted area. I managed to sneak in undetected while running an errand for Emil.
Version B sticks close to the classic Splinter Cell formula, with Sam sneaking into the restricted areas under the cover of night. The map is fairly open-ended. The player has several options from the start of how they want to approach it and which objectives they want to tackle first. Guard presence isn't too heavy, but security measures, like cameras, are, and causing alerts will activate additional security like lasers and automated turrets.
This is a level 1 alarm.
The first JBA mission in Version B is where you'll feel the consequences of your actions thus far, in regards to your equipment. For this mission, Sam has the SC-303 launcher, a non-lethal gun that fires rubber bullets that can knock out guards and bust lights, although it does have EMP capability as well. It can also launch familiar gadgets like sticky shockers and sticky cameras. If Barnham was spared in ELLSWORTH, the player will have more equipment and ammunition to work with, which can make the mission easier. If Barnham was killed, they'll have less equipment and less ammo.
Williams is furious that you went against orders and killed Barnum at ELLSWORTH. I couldn't get all your equipment. Williams is blocking my access.
In truth, whether or not this consequence is felt depends on the player. An experienced Splinter Cell veteran won't really need much to complete this mission. For me, I usually fire a few BBs and maybe a sticky shocker or two to get through it. A less experienced player might lean on these tools more. A unique mechanic for this version is that if Sam gets caught, you go into a hold-up scene, where the player has to complete a button sequence, resulting in them either knocking out a guard or getting them in a chokehold. Screw it up, and you be dead.
Whoa!
It's a little goofy and comes off pretty video gamey, but it's not a bad concept for Splinter Cell or stealth games in general. In fact, a similar system can be seen in the recent Hitman World of Assassination games. It would have been nice though if this mechanic was in other missions of the game and not just the headquarters. Want to see some nightmare fuel? Huh!
Feeling talkative?
Who are you? How did you get in here?
The stork brought me. Now start talking.
There are some silly aspects that kinda take me out of this mission. For starters, you can knock out and interrogate the JBA members, most notably Head of Security Carson Mooseman Moss, who we'll chat a little bit more on later.
You have to be kidding me. I'm Head of Security.
I know, and I appreciate the job that you do.
I don't know. It seems to me like if a man snuck into your secret terrorist hideout and began knocking out and interrogating people, I feel like A, you'd relocate your base immediately, and B, I don't think it would be that much of a leap to figure out it's Sam, even with his nasally voice change.
I did be look good.
You're not funny, and I will catch you.
Yeah, Moose, you probably will. This is reckless as hell. Also, a real annoying quality is that your night vision goggles have interference when in use, which is just plain unnecessary. Like, you're not hindering my ability to see, you're just annoying me for the sake of annoying me. In all, these are solid and enjoyable missions, but I wish Montreal pushed further with them. At the end of the day, they're really just standard Splinter Cell missions dressed up to appear like something new. It feels slapped together, and perhaps they didn't have enough time to tailor these into something more unique. Who knows? But when we consider that these are the missions where the double agent of Double Agent really comes into play, they are a letdown.
What the hell are you doing here? Get back to your post, or you'll end up in the furnace. You got that?
Sorry, sir.
Fisher, you're with me. Come along.
Compared to version B, I think version A's take on the JBA headquarters is better realized. There are 4 JBA missions in version A, appearing every couple of missions or so. Like version B, the map is open-ended. Sam is able to sleuth into all the facilities of the JBA headquarters, as well as the rooms of all of its members. But unlike version B, you aren't sneaking in at night, but rather completing tasks during the regular operating hours, with fellow JBA members going about their business. And the best part is that you get to see Sam do his groovy casual strut. Well, my name is Sam, and I'm here to say that I love sneaking every day. Each mission begins with a story sequence, getting the players better acquainted with their JBA team members. From there, they are given a primary task to complete, revolving around a minigame with a time limit of 24 minutes to complete it. Fret not, the task will not take that much time to finish, and once it is, the player can use the remaining time to explore the facility and sneak into restricted sections to accomplish side objectives and gather intel. Intel such as personnel files, fingerprints, and voice samples. And what's cool is that collecting these things will grant you access into more parts of the headquarters. They don't exist solely to give you trust brownie points. Although at the end of the time limit, the player needs to make sure they're back at the place where the JBA team member left them, or else risk losing some trust. Getting caught usually entails a small loss of trust and getting shooed away, although getting caught doing more explicit espionage actions is an automatic game over. No fancy minigame button presses here.
Stop that right now.
Either you're a spy, or you just can't follow orders.
While I do think version A realizes this concept better than B, I don't exactly love these missions. The best parts are sneaking into the restricted sections. Tiptoeing around the JBA members in their private moments really makes you feel like a crafty double agent, but everything else just feels like a chore. The mini-games you have to complete are nothing to write home about. The safe-cracking one is the best of the bunch, pretty much because it's another version of the lock-picking mini-game, which most Splinter Cellers can do in their sleep. The bomb-arming mini-game is just plain annoying. You have to guide this little doohickey into this slot, and if you touch the sides, you have to start over. It's real touchy, real easy to fail, and really not that fun. But the worst is the encryption one you have to suffer through in JBA Mission 3. It's like Sudoku meets a Rubik's Cube. You have to make it so all of the numbers line up in a particular way on each side of the cube, and none of the numbers can repeat in a row. I'll be honest, I look up the solution for this every time I play because I am not smart enough to do it fast, and I plain don't have the patience for it.
You've managed to impress Emil with your credentials, though. He's gonna ask you to hijack a supertanker for him.
If I was able to change anything about these missions, I would take away the timer. They do give players a good sense of pressure and challenge them to really strategize and prioritize where they want to go and what they want to do. But at the same time, I would have preferred the freedom to explore this facility at my leisure, take my time to really learn about this place and these people, and converse with them too, and make sneaking into the restricted areas something more of a puzzle that the player will really have to work at to figure out, not something they just have to rush through. I suppose I would have liked the JBA headquarters to play more like the Paladin sections of Splinter Cell Blacklist, essentially a home base where Sam can chat with his teammates and gear up for the next mission. I've always appreciated when games have something like this, likely because of all the BioWare games I used to play back in the day that helped popularize the concept.
Look, jackass, next time you don't call me until you're ready. When I get back, either your server is up and running or I bring a meal down here.
In all fairness though, the JBA missions, particularly in version A, do serve as a catalyst to learn about the terrorist organization along with your JBA crew, with your intel gathering shedding light on their backstories. However, any player that takes the time to dive into this lore will be disappointed to find a lot of it is pretty half-baked. The JBA, short for John Brown's Army, named after the prominent abolitionist, has the goal to change or outright destroy the US government as it believes it is corrupt and run by greed. And that's pretty much it. Sure, there have been real-life organizations with that agenda, but everything about the JBA feels like it was lifted from American action movies from the last 20 to 30 years. The kind that like to depict homegrown American terrorists as suave, sleek aristocrats and tech geeks. It's all a little goofy and not terribly believable. I mean, my biggest distraction in this whole story is wondering how these people are hiding this big base full of stolen weapons and experimental tech in the New York City docks. In version B, the base is located in New Orleans, which isn't much better.
I don't like this at all.
And it doesn't help that your crew is a bunch of misfits who are hard to care about, let alone believe they could carry out mass murder to achieve their goals. Jamie, who you escaped Ellsworth with, is the electronics expert and all-around violent nerd. He's a strange and not terribly likable character, and your interactions with him don't really go beyond Ellsworth. Carson Moss is my favorite of them for all the wrong reasons. He's the stereotypical meathead bully, existing solely to give Fisher a hard time. He's like a murderous Biff Tannen. Okay, a more murderous Biff Tannen. What Moss brings to the table is his delightfully cringeworthy dialogue, which has become a favorite among fans over the years. This exchange in particular always makes me giggle.
What do you want me to do?
Die, but that's not an option.
Listen, Moose.
It's Moss. Get it right or pay the price.
From this point on, we're only calling him Moose. Emile Dufresne is the leader and admittedly the most captivating of the group. He's more memorable than past Splinter Cell villains, with his charming southern drawl and intimidating presence.
After our pilot problems in Shanghai, I'm a little suspicious of our partners. Particularly when I'll be meeting with them in Kinshasa shortly.
But go deeper and the character is shallow and full of holes. There's not much explanation why he started the JBA other than at some point he found our government to be in the hands of traitors and decided to use his wealth to fight back. Was there more of an emotional reason? Was he wronged? Does he secretly have a heart of gold but has resorted to corrupted means? Who knows? He's not a fleshed out human. He's a bad guy for the sake of a bad guy.
Sam. Oh, you're just full of surprises, aren't you?
And then there's Enrica. Enrica feels completely out of place in this organization. Being the only female in the group, and the game, Enrica serves more as a love interest to Sam and not much else. And their relationship differs greatly between both versions. In version A, Sam gets all steamy with her as cover for getting caught sneaking into the restricted section. And that's the only affection you'll see him give her the whole game. In version B, there's more of a developed relationship. A cheesy one at that.
Let me get on top of you.
What?
So I can place the relay.
Oh, of course.
She's not that much of a character. She's just pretty eye candy in an organization of violent revolutionaries. And I'm sure Ubisoft marketing was more than happy to use her to sell some copies. Now, I may be kinder about these characters if there was an effort to depict Sam getting to know them more and have some sort of emotional connection, past the physical. But no, other than intro and outro story sequences, there's hardly any meaningful story moments with these people, and everything you find out about them comes from intel gathering. I mean, Shanghai was gunning for a more emotionally driven story, and yet neglected to create moments to drive the emotion. And it's not much better in version B. While Montreal had more connective tissue in their narrative, they barrel through any sort of meaningful character development, and most of the narrative is flat out told to the player through the Williams cutscenes, which is sloppy and boring. In all, it feels like a lot of seeds were planted to create a compelling narrative, but in the end, none of them were nurtured or grown.
Sam Fisher, glad you're here. I was getting a little tired. I'd like you to meet Cole Yeager.
The initial JBA missions in both versions feature a major choice revolving around whether or not to kill a man named Cole Yeager. In version A, Yeager is the pilot of the helicopter you and Jamie hijacked. Sam is handed a gun and told to put the innocent pilot out of his misery. Regardless of what the player chooses, Yeager dies either way, with Jamie doing the honors if the player refuses. While this does affect your trust meter, this choice has no real substantial effect on the game.
That's what you should have done.
Enrica mentioned something about a supertanker.
In version B, Jaeger is a member of the JBA and is suspected to be an informant by Emil, which he is. By hacking the JBA servers, Fisher has the choice to rat Jaeger out to Emil or hand him over to the NSA for protective custody. If Sam rats him out, Jaeger dies, but his cover is solidified. If he hands him over to the NSA, obviously he lives, but Emil's suspicion of an informant intensifies. It doesn't really matter though, because this choice affects nothing other than the trust meter. A disappointing choice in both versions as it carries very little weight. But I will say I like how it's presented in version A way more. Making us choose by actually pulling the trigger is a lot more visceral than making a cold choice on a menu screen in a server room. But at the end of the day, Jaeger simply exists to die and give players a false sense that they have control over the story. It's underwhelming and likely most will forget about this moment as they progress.
Your flight leaves in 30 minutes.
Where am I going?
You'll find out when you get there.
So now that we've taken in a good amount of both Double Agents, I think it's time we chat about the graphical and audio presentation. And because both these versions were on different generations of hardware, from a technical standpoint, we have a lot of fun contrast between both, as well as a distinct difference in art direction. Like their predecessors, both versions of Double Agent were built using a modified version of Unreal Engine 2. As far as I can tell, Montreal recycled their Chaos Theory version of the engine, whereas Shanghai customized it further to take advantage of next-gen capabilities. And I have to say, 17 years on, Double Agent version A still holds up surprisingly well. Version B, on the other hand, certainly shows its age in many ways, but still positively shows off the Montreal team's artistry. Environments is one area both versions excel at. Version A missions have a sleekness and grandeur to them, like the dominating high-tech fortress feel of ELLSWORTH and the shiny luxury of the cruise ship and Shanghai Tower missions. Although Shanghai shows more range in their environments with the bleak urban war zone of KINSASHA, you can practically feel the intense African sun beating down on Sam among black smoke and demolished buildings. The sort of grim detail that makes it easy to immerse yourself. But its natural places are really what makes your jaw drop. The slick, curvy, icy fields of the Sea of OKHOSKH are just as awe-inspiring as when I first saw them back in 2006. There are certainly a few spots that show their age, as well as the occasional blemish, but for the most part, this early showcase of 7th gen tech has remained believable. For version B, Montreal did the opposite. They didn't push their engine for shininess and grandeur, but rather grunge and grit. Version B's environments consist of decaying ruins and coarse, dirty industry, with some of the best environmental detail the studio had rendered in a Splinter Cell thus far. Plus, the lighting is some of my favorite in the series. Montreal was more than comfortable with their lighting techniques by this point, and there are some beautiful scenes of dynamic shadows in this game that still make me pause every time I replay it. Shanghai did a beautiful job with their lighting too, without a doubt, but the atmosphere Montreal created with theirs captivates me far more.
How good is security inside the foundry?
Good. We have a state-of-the-art security system.
What do you need that for in a remote location like this?
Version B's true weakness, however, is in its character models, specifically faces. Sam's character model and animations are essentially the same as Chaos Theory's. In fact, the classic sneaking suit is pretty much copy and pasted over, but his head model was swapped out, and it's pretty funky looking. Sam looks like a Special Forces Uncle Fester. The best is when he has his ski mask on, with his overly intense, soul-piercing eyes. It's not as bad as the head models for the supporting cast. Emil looks like he's fresh off of a monster bong rip, and the way the shadows hit Jamie's head model in this cutscene is the stuff of nightmares.
What do you want?
A really good reason not to break your arm.
Sam's character models in version A, however, are some of my favorite in the whole series. The detail on him is outstanding, with some insanely badass sneaking suits, like his navy blue one for the ICELAND mission, which is a feast of specular highlights. And we have the glorious return of his white snowsuit from the PS2 port of the first game. Look how awesome this is, with the white goggles, ooh-wee! And his face model actually resembles the way Sam looks in Splinter Cell's key art, something past models have always been spotty with. And the reflective streaks of sweat going down his head is a great touch. The bummer though is that the facial animations for enemies during interrogations leaves a lot to be desired. Their facial detail is excellent, but the flappy robotic speaking animations are distracting. Version B is stronger in this regard, but you still run into a few cringy animations here and there.
That's how we ended up in ELLSWORTH Penitentiary. He was treated the same as anybody else.
An odd thing about both versions is that they share CG cutscenes with some glaring inconsistencies. I don't know if the CG team weren't communicated with enough or if the devs had some last-minute changes, but these cinematics don't match either game. For instance, in the cutscene following the ICELAND mission, in version A, Sam exfiltrates by rope to the Osprey in his Navy suit, and yet in the cutscene he's wearing his JBA sneaking suit and the Osprey is not hovering over the missile silo. In version B, there's an extra bit at the head of the scene showing Sam run across a field that does match him exiting out the base through a door, but once again in that mission he's wearing his classic sneaking suit, which looks nothing like the JBA one. Following that, the portion where he's in prison does match version B's ELLSWORTH, particularly with the riot guards escorting him, but doesn't resemble anything in version A. I suppose it doesn't harm the experience too much, but it does stick out like a sore thumb, and really makes me ponder how this all ended up in the final game. Double Agent soundtrack was composed by Michael McCann, aka Behavior, along with Chris Velasco and Sonic Mayhem, who just worked on the main theme. Yeah, I bet a few of you Quake fans just perked up. McCann has an impressive pile of credits in both television and gaming, having done the scores for the recent Deus Ex and XCOM games, and most recently he composed the score for Borderlands 3. With Double Agent, McCann had a tough act to follow. The score for the previous game, Chaos Theory, was composed by the experimental electronic musician Amon Tobin, who sampled a wide variety of musical styles to create a uniquely chaotic espionage soundscape. For me, it remains my favorite soundtrack of this series and one of my favorite gaming soundtracks in general. Personally, I don't feel like Double Agent soundtrack hits the same highs as Chaos Theory's, but I do think this is one of the better scores of the series. McCann gives the game the appropriate espionage feel, with tracks that combine an electronic sound with strings to give the player a sense of danger. The Iceland mission in particular is a standout in this regard. But then he also has tracks with a more southern bluesy feel, with a subtle electric guitar and vocals, to really make you feel like you're undercover in a seedy criminal world. Both versions use McCann's score, but both have slightly different variations on it. Version A takes advantage of the score interactively. When Sam approaches a guard, the music intensifies more and more, making the moment more cinematic, but also tipping off the player that they are in their enemy's bubble. And the sharp sound effect hit that happens when you are able to strike is a cool touch.
I give up.
Yet I see your hand itching.
This is your first real test for us, Mr. Fisher. Jamie has spoken very highly of your talents. Don't make a liar out of him.
The Sea of OKHOSKH is one of the standout missions in both versions of Double Agent. Something to note real quick, OKHOSKH is the 4th mission in version A, whereas in version B, it's the 8th. But we're gonna talk about them together to keep things nice and tidy. And as a matter of fact, OKHOSKH is one of the few missions where both versions are pretty dang similar to each other. Oh yeah, the actual design of them is leagues different, but both versions share most of their objectives and plot points and wrap up pretty much the same.
Could you tell me exactly what I'm doing here?
I told you already, you're hijacking a super tanker.
Sam has to hijack a tanker lodged in a field of ice. To do so, he'll have to brave the elements and single-handedly take out the crew and captain. And here lies the moral dilemma of the mission. The JBA wants Sam to kill the crew and captain, whereas the NSA naturally want him to incapacitate them with the intention of apprehending an interrogation. Ah, what's a knock to do?
I'm looking for a detonator. Where it is you might know.
Who told you that?
God.
The first thing we gotta talk about is the beginning of version A, where we see Shanghai attempt to create one of their memorable cinematic moments, with Sam parachuting into the mission. It's definitely a cool looking scene. Sam stands all brooding at the door of the airplane with music that's all sorts of dramatic, and the subsequent freefall lets players control Sam and do some neat tricks. The real heart pounder is when Sam's chute fails to open and the players have to quickly find and pull the emergency chute. Interactive set-piece moments like this were all the rage around the time of Double Agent's release, with the industry still infatuated with interactive QuickTime moments popularized by God of War and Resident Evil. Sure, this is entertaining, but I have to admit, playing this today, it's hard for me not to find it silly. There's really not all that much danger to the scene, and it's very hard for the player to fail it, and the extent of the player interaction here is just wiggling the left joystick around. It's hollow spectacle that feels tacked onto the game, and it doesn't really add anything to the overall experience. If anything, it's there to show off and make the player feel better about plopping down $400 for their Xbox 360, or $300 if they went with the core model. I appreciate Shanghai trying something new here, but I think this game would have been just fine without this scene.
Good. Go under the ice floes until you get to the ship. Should be pretty straightforward.
Nothing is ever that easy.
In version A, Sam swims through icy waters and traverses an open enemy camp in the midst of a blizzard, before eventually reaching the deck of the tanker, where he'll be ordered to eliminate the crew. In version B, Sam has to hunt the crew down in a winding, complex series of dark caves and narrow tunnels. I really dig how Montreal designed this section because whether or not the player decides to kill or incapacitate the crew, they'll find the level design complements their choice of playstyle. Going the non-lethal route, they'll find the close-quartered nature of the caves will afford them plenty of opportunities to get up close and give the crew a nice snow nap, but also plenty of obstacles, particularly traps like good old remote mines and turrets. If they decide to give the crew a permanent snow nap, they'll discover natural vantage points where they can use their sniper rifle. It's simple, but effective and fun, and one of the many times in this version where it feels like Montreal designing from their own Splinter Cell muscle memory. Plus, it always kind of makes me feel like the Predator. When players eventually infiltrate the tanker, they'll find maze-like design, with the cramped, winding interior of the ship providing lots of hiding spots and vantage points for both Sam and the guards. Here, players will have to travel up and down the ship in order to best the loudmouth captain who refuses to go without a fight.
Nobody take my ship away from me! Do you hear? Nobody!
Sir, it's cold, and I'm just here to do my job and go home. This is a solid section all around, with some fun challenge and plenty of choices for how to go about it. But a funny thing about this section is that it features some of the more blatant recycling from Chaos Theory. Remember how in Chaos Theory you could be captured and interrogated in the final mission? Well, it's in this one, playing out identically, with the guard tasing you, you waking up handcuffed to a chair, and getting your face tenderized with backhands. Remember Doug Shetland's Mad Bomber sequence from the bathhouse mission? Well, it's back. Although it's not as much of a maze this time around, and we actually get a nifty little bomb disposal minigame. And I wouldn't be shocked if sections of this tanker were recycled from Chaos Theory's cargo ship mission. A few of these hallways look awfully familiar. Now, I'm not trying to throw shade at Montreal for doing this. These were fun elements of the last game, and I would say they fit decently into this mission. But there is some luster lost when it's so obvious these things were pretty much copy and pasted over. But hey, once again, this version was likely made on the cheap and quick, and Montreal was maybe eager to get this game out of the way so they could focus on that version of Splinter Cell Conviction that ended up getting scrapped. Oh boy, it's gonna be fun to talk about that one. Anyways, the big bummer of version B's OKHOSKH is that it ends in such a lame way. You just reach a door and yay, we got the tanker. Super anticlimactic, especially after all that smack talk from the captain. In version A, you go into the bowels of the ship, swim into some big fuel pod thing, and sneak up behind the captain before he chucks a flare into the fuel and blows everything up. It's a way more exciting conclusion to this level. Now, when it comes to version A of OKHOSKH, my opinion of it depends on how I play it. If I approach it as lethal as possible, it's a great time. Picking off soldiers in the snow with my thermal makes me feel like a badass super soldier, and there are plenty of hiding spots and vantage points for Sam to take advantage of. It's awesome all around. But if I take the non-lethal route, well, that's when the frustration happens. Another one of the key differences between Ubisoft Montreal and Shanghai is how they designed their stealth challenges. The original Splinter Cell from Montreal remains one of the more difficult games in the series, requiring a lot of trial and error from the player to get through it completely unseen, and punishing even the tiniest of mistakes. It was rewarding, but finding the best practices tended to be frustrating. And Montreal's goal for their next Splinter Cell, Chaos Theory, was to lessen the trial and error and give players more options and flexibility in the gameplay without sacrificing the depth. Sure, there was still an element of trial and error, and typically a few best solutions to get through scenarios as a total ghost. But if something went wrong, the player had room to improvise and salvage the situation. It was a big aspect that made Chaos Theory feel a cut above its predecessors, and Montreal carried this design attitude into their Double Agent. And it's great. Shanghai, however, did not. Now, just to be clear, Shanghai's stealth design does take advantage of multiple options and allows for some improvisation, but for the most part, their scenarios in Double Agent revolve around restricting the player and giving them less options. In many of the stealth puzzles in this game, players will find minimal shadow cover, forcing them to rely on traditional cover that breaks the enemy's line of sight, and will be pushed to use their gadgets more, and in clever ways. There are good and rewarding aspects to this stricter style, but unfortunately it makes the player have to rely almost solely on trial and error, making for something I like to call eggshell stealth, where it seems like no matter what you do, someone is going to see or hear you, and it feels like you're going through the level an inch at a time, like you're walking on eggshells. The enemy camp in version A is a clear example of this. The camp is wide open, and Sam's objective, a detonation switch to blow up a nearby ice wall, is literally in the center of the camp with a spotlight on it and guards patrolling around it. Yeah, it's a real tricky one. OKHOSKH is technically the first daytime mission of Double Agent, which means there is almost zero shadow cover. Sam is always in yellow visibility, meaning that if he isn't hiding behind something, a guard will easily see him from a distance. It is so easy to get spotted here, and the wide open design makes it hard to get a sense for where safety is. So many times I thought I had good cover only to suddenly get shot from some random corner I wasn't paying attention to. I've had to play through this section many times to get comfortable with it, and for me the best ways to handle it is to either patiently lure each guard away and take them out quietly, or inch on through it slowly and take them out when the opportunity is right. Patiently waiting is nothing new in Splinter Cell, but this level pushes it to the limit. This all extends into the tanker portion of the mission as well, which is equally wide open, devoid of shadow cover, and full of angles and vantage points for the enemies to surprise you. Now, some of you might be wondering why someone would even bother going through pure stealth if it's so frustrating. Well, it's because it's incentivized. Just like in Chaos Theory, the only way to get 100% stealth rating in these missions is to complete them as an absolute ghost. No dead bodies, no alerts, nothing. Playing lethal and loud is sure to leave you with a big goose egg as a score, actually less in my case, and no rewards. And look, I have no issue with a lot of challenge in getting a perfect stealth score, but playing through a mission eggshelly where I'm inching through it, having to constantly quick save and quick load, and patiently wait for guards to do just the right thing for me to slip by, gets pretty old in large doses. Where Chaos Theory and Double Agent version B feel flexible, version A's Double Agent feels way more rigid and punishing.
What do I do?
You need to keep building up their trust. You cannot blow your cover now.
Lambert, they're asking me to clean up the place.
I know.
Now, along with the moral quandary of killing the entire crew, version A features a further permutation of it. Sam is ordered to throw knockout gas into the ventilation system to take out the bridge crew, but Sam has a good reason to feel uncomfortable about the order.
Knockout gas inside a building can concentrate to lethal levels. Rika, this can get very nasty.
That's the goddamned idea, Einstein.
And here we have a choice, and it's a choice I like because it actually affects the gameplay. If you gas the crew, the objective is done and done. No sweat. If not, the player will have to sneak into the bridge and knock them out one by one, which is tricky as there's not a ton of places to hide in the bridge, and doing it quietly requires a lot of waiting around for opportunity. Either it's convenient, but you're a monster, or it's time-consuming and tough, but you're a good guy. Regardless of how you do it, once the objective is complete, it alerts the captain, who decides to go into the bowels of the ship and destroy it outright. And as much as I like this choice playing out through gameplay, it's here that I think Montreal missed a chance to add more consequence to this choice. See, I think it should have been if the player gasses the bridge crew, that's what sets the captain off, and they have to deal with taking him out before the ship is lost. Whereas, if they take the time to knock out the crew quietly, the reward is the captain not being alerted and you being able to take him out without incident. I throw this out there because there's a later level in this game that does something similar, and I think it's pretty effective. Otherwise, past the effect on your trust meters, what you do to the crew in OKHOSKH has no other effect on how this game plays out in both versions.
Good work, Fisher. One of our allies, Masood Ibn Yusuf, will take over from here. I need you elsewhere.
One of the clearest differences between version A and B is that they both feature an exclusive level not found in the other. For version A, it's a Shanghai skyscraper, version B, the New York subway.
Fisher, you know your job. Just stay here and keep an eye on those guys until further notice.
For Shanghai, Emil is meeting with a Pakistani nuclear scientist to purchase materials for the creation of a nuclear weapon. The deal is set to take place at the Jinmao Hotel, which is based on the real-life Jinmao Tower located in the Pudong district of Shanghai. Clearly, the game took some liberties with the roof. Emil wants Sam to break into the scientist's hotel room and steal their notes. Simultaneously, though, the NSA wants Sam to spy on this arms deal with his laser mic, as well as assassinate the scientist. And let's just say there's a lot of vertical obstacles in his way.
Hey, hold it steady up there!
Like the Sea of OKHOSKH, this mission opens up with another cinematic set-piece moment. Flying into Shanghai airspace, the pilot suddenly has a heart attack and Sam has to take control of the aircraft, which for the player involves moving the thumbstick left and right to level it out. And that's pretty much it. Neat, I guess, but once again, this is just another means to show off and adds nothing to the game. At least Moose compliments your flying.
You fly like crap.
But following this comes the most memorable aspect of this level, something that involves a lot of rope. And if it's one thing a Splinter Cell has, it's a lot of rope.
You shouldn't be touching the crane.
This mission to me always felt like Ubisoft Shanghai trying to top their Paris train mission from Pandora Tomorrow, by putting Sam in a memorable, death-defying moment. In Paris, it was crawling underneath a passenger train and its sides to sneak past the guards. A sequence that is fondly remembered by Splinter Cell fans and is one of the highlights of that game. Here, it's rappelling down and climbing along the side of a skyscraper in the middle of a rainstorm to eavesdrop on the deal. It's quite the spectacle. Shanghai itself is rendered beautifully with fireworks illuminating from the distance, the only blemish being the product placement. Gross. It's an enjoyable sequence, but like the Paris train mission, the death-defying moments are really just for show. Don't get me wrong, I love the insanity of that sequence, but there's not that much danger to it past getting caught by a passenger or a guard. It really is more about the spectacle. Now, compared to the train, there's more to do on the side of this skyscraper, like shimmying and dangling and recording, and there's a possibility for failure if you're caught in the act or accidentally hit the B button. Otherwise, there's not much adversity for the player here. I mean, these people chillin', they won't see you no matter what. And failing the microphone sequence is pretty hard if you ask me. There is a moment where you have to outrun the spotlight of a helicopter, but its movement pattern is pretty easy to predict and get around. In all, this is a cool sequence, but for these reasons, it does lose some of its luster on repeat playthroughs. And compared to the Paris train mission, while scaling the side of a slick skyscraper is more death-defying and scary, it doesn't really come close to the visceral feeling of crawling underneath a train mere feet from the ground that can shred you to bits. But the interior of the hotel is decently fun to stealth through. You get this enjoyably tricky laundry room setup with several fun means to distract and incapacitate the guards, with 2 options of exit leading to your objective in the hotel suite, which is the most exciting part of the mission if you ask me. You have to tiptoe through it, narrowly avoiding guards, and break into the safe to gather a sample of red mercury, a mere few feet from Emil and the others. It's exciting for the simple fact of, oh, they think I'm up there, but I'm actually right here. The last part of the mission kind of falls off. To get to the scientist's room, you have to ride the elevators down through the center of the hotel, hundreds of feet above a crowd of people celebrating the Chinese New Year. You'd think this would be an awe-inspiring moment, but it kind of falls flat. While the scale of everything does convey the death-defying nature of this moment, the dark and drab interior of the hotel and the fact that you can barely see the crowd kind of takes away from it, and riding down the elevators is slow and a bit boring. And they can kind of be a hassle to get on top of. The ending, where you steal the scientist's notes and eliminate the scientist, makes for some good fun. But what a lot of players likely don't realize is that the second you reach this room, there is a hidden timer counting down to the moment Emil picks you up with the helicopter. So if you take too long to do everything, you can lose a good chunk of JBA trust. But if you accomplish everything really fast, it means waiting for the scientist to show up, which can be uncomfortably long and flat out annoying. Seriously, where is this guy? I'm trying to wrap this up. Despite the spectacle moments losing some of their spectacle, in all, this is one of the better missions of version A that does provide the franchise more extravagant sights.
Fisher, Enrica, the train has already arrived and the valuables are being loaded on board.
The subway mission, Money Train, is a big old messy heist. Being the first mission where you're teamed up with Enrica, the two of you have to make your way through a section of the subway system undergoing extensive renovations, with the goal of reaching and hijacking a subway train transporting money to the New York bank. In the beginning, you navigate a few co-op situations with Enrica before splitting up for the remainder of the mission. But that doesn't stop these two from getting to know each other better over comms, with some subtle flirting.
I should take you on all my train robberies.
You say the nicest things. Enrica out.
The New York subway system is pretty much a dirty, crumbling ruin. Sam will have to climb and squeeze through it, with the player enjoying multiple options to do so, perhaps leading to some vertical advantages on the poor mechanics trying to repair everything. I think Montreal did a beautiful job rendering the old, crumbling infrastructure, and the stark, sourcey lighting gives it a real creepy atmosphere. I can't help but be reminded of old YouTube videos of urban explorers traveling into the actual abandoned parts of the New York subway system, and I wonder if Montreal took some inspiration from those. A great touch that goes along with that observation is when you reach a partially abandoned section that looks like it was built in the 1920s. Not only is it an intriguing visual, it reminds me of the opening levels of Max Payne, which also brings you into similar parts of the New York subway system.
You ready for a little excitement?
I've got a dozen guards.
We won't get here before I break your neck.
Later on, there is a minor moment of choice where we have to choose whether or not to kill the station chief. As you may suspect, the JBA want him cold on the floor, and the NSA would prefer him breathing. Whatever you choose, though, will only affect your trust meter and nothing else, making it another disappointing choice.
Fisher, you left the chief alive. Do not disappoint me again.
You did well, Sam. You kept your cool in spite of defray.
The second half of the subway mission has you stowing away on the bank train, which is full of guards, money, and freaking lasers. You have 8 minutes to reach the front of the train and take it over. And let me tell you, this section is touchy. Very touchy.
Get me! What was that? I think I saw it too.
Easily the most eggshelly segment of version B, and to get through it as a ghost absolutely requires smart use of your gadgets. In fact, some of these parts I don't know how to get past without them. Some would say this is a harder version of Pandora Tomorrow's Paris train mission. Hey, what do you know, we're talking about that again. And I think that's a fair description. You're dealing with more security measures, like the aforementioned lasers, and you are in very, very close quarters with the guards here. But as is the fashion with Montreal's stealth design, there are some simple and slick solutions to get you past these stealth puzzles if you pay close attention to your environment. While you don't crawl underneath this train or dangle off its sides, you do jump on top of it. While intense looking, there's not much danger up here. Sure, some obstacles for Sam to duck under, but he does that automatically. You'll likely get some guards jumping on top to get ya, although they don't last long with those aforementioned obstacles.
What is that?
Dude, what'd you think was gonna happen? The finale presents us with a big, bombastic CG cutscene of Sam derailing the train and dealing with the guilt of its grim aftermath.
Talk to me, Lambert. I've got a bloodbath here.
Money Train is a solid mission all around, and easily one of the highlights of version B. I'll be honest, the first time I played the train sequence, I wasn't terribly fond of it. And while I still think it has its flaws, I've come to appreciate it more on repeat playthroughs, especially with discovering some of the tricks to get through it. If only Sam enjoyed it as much as I did.
We need to meet. Pronto. Drop point Charlie, tomorrow night, usual time. Got it?
Oh yeah. I got it.
What we're doing, Sam, is very simple. This is a dry run for the real operation, the big one that's going to get our point across to the government.
The JBA have finally constructed a nuclear device from red mercury, and before they can carry out their grand scheme, they need to test it. The target? A passenger cruise ship in COZUMEL, Mexico.
Rise and shine, lover boy.
Funny, you don't sound like Enrica.
Like the Sea of OKHOSKH, both versions of the cruise ship are pretty close to each other in terms of objectives and plot points. The glaring difference, as you've likely noticed, is that version A's takes place during the day and B's at night. Sam and Enrica have been instructed to infiltrate the cruise ship, plant the bomb, and get out of there so Emil can have himself a show. There is a slight difference in both versions in this regard. In version A, the ship is mostly empty, largely occupied by crew and a few passengers, whereas in version B, it's a full ship, with thousands of passengers. Yikes. Either way, innocent lives are in Sam's hands.
It is just an unlocked door.
In version B, Sam ventures into the darkened, guard-infested hallways, eventually making his way into the engine room. In version A, he climbs along the sun-kissed side of the ship into the casino, bar, and pool areas, eventually planting the bomb in the navigation room on the bow. Version A is the second daytime mission, and indeed challenges the player to overcome a lot of exposure. It's not to the degree of OKHOSKH. There are some dim interiors where they can effectively stealth with plenty of ways to distract, like the large floor of the casino where you can set off the slot machines, and the cruise ship bar with lots of loose, throwable bottles laying around. Yes, it still takes some trial and error to handle these places, but once you get comfortable and wait for just the right moment, you can zip through these zones pretty quickly.
Nice bar.
That thing is real?
Nice drinks.
Oh, it's
nice fish.
My favorite thing about this mission is the fish tank in the bar. Why? Well, every time I replay this mission, I always quick save here, pull out my pistol, and...
So many guards around.
Sometimes you just gotta have some simple fun. The main challenge is the pool area, a Splinter Cell nightmare. The sun is bright and glaring, no shadows, and guards are patrolling at points with lots of visibility. There is one good way to get through this unseen. Wait for Enrica to switch on the fountains so you can use them as cover to slip by in the pool. It's possible to get through this without the pool, but it's a grueling uphill battle of inching through and doing lots of quick saves. This area is another example of Shanghai's more rigid stealth design, and the daytime aspect doesn't do this mission any favors. Imagining this area at night, lit by sporadic lights and patrolled by guards with flashlights, and I can't help but think it would have been a more enjoyable scenario to tackle, with some flexibility in how to go about it. But don't think I'm saying this ruins the mission. Hardly. COZUMEL is one of the stronger missions of this version that facilitates some fun sleuthing, and you gotta love Sam's summertime sneaking suit.
Keep your voice down.
Oh, Christ, you must be the one they're looking for.
Version B is more of your typical Splinter Cell mission, for better and worse. The narrow, twisting halls makes for some solid stealthing, and there's some good puzzles with inconvenient guard locations that might require some crafty distractions. But beyond that, there's not much here that makes this mission a standout other than the major choice at the end. COZUMEL presents one of the most difficult and consequential choices of the game. The dilemma is clear. If Sam sabotages the detonation, he'll save lives, but put his at risk.
Whatever you were doing, what exactly were you doing, Sam?
Don't get paranoid.
In version A, Sam plants the bomb on the bow of the ship and sneakily hacks it so he can sabotage later. Back at JBA headquarters, at the moment of truth, the player will have three options. They can jam the detonation, allow it to happen, or jam and frame Enrica. If you let it happen, the cruise ship goes up in smoke and the JBA celebrates. Jamming the detonation or framing Enrica lead to the same outcome. The ship is saved, but Enrica is dead.
At least you held up your end of things, Fisher. Now get out of here, all of you!
In version B, Sam and Enrica plant the bomb in the engine room, and while co-oping over some pipes, Enrica drops her cell phone, giving Sam the opportunity to intervene.
Are we worth more than 2,000 lives? This could be the end of everything.
Oh man, I'm sure glad we have this Nokia N-series phone to make this decision with. Hey kids, that's what 2006 looked like. If Sam destroys the ship, there's not much that happens other than Williams chewing him out in the following motion graphic cutscene.
2,156 dead. And you are responsible for every single one of them.
If he saves it, Enrica doesn't die, but she, along with Sam, get beaten to a pulp in one of the game's few high-quality CG cutscenes. but since nothing else is really affected in the game past the alternate cutscenes, it's an underwhelming choice. In version A though, this choice directly affects how the final mission plays out and the overall outcome of the game. If only the next mission was as fun.
You're coming to Kinshasa with me, Fisher. I've got to meet with our partners in this enterprise, the men who are helping us and making it all possible.
KINSASHA, the penultimate mission of version A and the anti-penultimate mission of version B. KINSASHA is a funny one. Sam accompanies Emile to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where he is to have a vital meeting with his partners. The meeting is set to take place at a hotel in the middle of an active war zone. In version A, Sam's objective is to sneak into the meeting room and bug it for the NSA. In version B, he has to break into the rooms of Emile's partners and gather some intel. Both conclude with Sam hunting down a suspected mole.
What can you tell me about the meeting room on the roof?
I don't know.
That has to be the worst lie I've ever heard.
So look, I'll go ahead and tell you all right off the bat. Version B's KINSASHA, I would say, is one of the strongest missions of that game. And version A's, in my opinion, is one of the worst levels in the Splinter Cell franchise. Yep, let's begin. In version A, Sam starts in the parking lot of the hotel and has to work his way up through the floors to bug the secret meeting room. The battle raging around Sam is the most interesting aspect, with rebel soldiers engaging in fierce firefights on the battle-damaged floors. The actual stealth gameplay in this section, however, is not as interesting. Being the third and final daytime mission, the player will once again find little shadow cover and will have to carefully inch through and climb around the fighting soldiers. It's very easy to be seen here, and certainly requires some patience as you'll wait for just the right time to slip by. It can be frustrating on a first-time playthrough, especially since guard patrol patterns are designed to catch players off guard. The coolest part is bugging the meeting room, a secure, glass-enclosed space full of lasers and alarm sensors in the floor. Sam will have to enter from the roof, scale the edges, avoiding the laser grid, and then do his best Mission Impossible impression to plant the bug. Naturally, as soon as he plants it, Emile and company enter the room and he'll have to scoop back up and listen quietly. Hey bro, what's up with your neck? After the meeting wraps, Sam has to make a mad dash back to the parking garage to meet Emile, before his absence starts to deplete the trust meter. And I do get a kick out of racing Emile's elevator by rope rappel. At their rendezvous, Emile informs Sam that there is a CIA mole in the city that must be eliminated, and sends him out into the war zone. It's an okay start to the mission, but the worst is yet to come.
Yes, what? Are you serious? I will skin him alive! I will feed him his own balls!
What's going on, Masood?
Gentlemen, this meeting is over!
What?
The entirety of version B's KINSASHA takes place in the hotel. We begin with a cutscene of Sam already listening in on the meeting. And I have to say, this is a respectably produced in-game cutscene. Seriously, there's decent animations here, camera work. I mean, compare this to the other robotic cutscenes of this version and it's night and day. Clearly, Montreal had time to work on this part. Anyways, Emile orders Sam to break into the hotel suites of his partners and steal some intel. Sam has a strict no-kill order, as these men are not the JBA's enemies. At least not yet. And the player will be forced to go about the mission with none of their equipment, not even their goggles. Version B's KINSASHA doesn't remotely come close to the intense Warzone set pieces of version A, but Montreal makes up for it with superb, tight level design. The mission consists of 2 floors of the hotel stacked on top of each other, with the terrorist leader's suites at opposite ends and on different floors. It's up to the player which suite they tackle first, with a few options for how to get to them, either by taking the stairs or utilizing the broken elevator in the center to switch between floors. It's straightforward design, but it's clean and logical. The central challenge here is that the battle waging outside has made the power grid unstable, and throughout the mission the lights will randomly go on and off. Players can use this to their advantage to sneak past guards and other security measures. But if their timing is off, or if they play it too risky, the lights can suddenly flip on and blow their cover. It's an effective device to keep players on their toes. The second part of KINSASHA A places Sam in the middle of an active war zone. Visually, this is one of the most spectacular missions in the Splinter Cell series. It really is. The depiction of the war zone is bleak, hellish, and tragic, and the chaos of it all is well conveyed to the player, with bullets whizzing past their head and innocent people running everywhere. Plus, there are some admittedly cool moments to uncover here, like vehicles blowing up in your face, hitching a ride on the underside of a truck, destroying a tank by sneaking to the backside and planting a grenade. And speaking of grenades, did he just drop a live one? Oh, yep, he sure did. Also, this is a small thing, but Sam is wearing a dope pair of aviators that you can slide up and down your face with the night vision button. I don't know, I think that's neat. In terms of spectacle and excitement, Shanghai did a lot of stuff right here. But the one thing they didn't accomplish was making it fun. Remember earlier when I was talking about the snow camp in OKHOSKH? Well, all the issues I had with that, I have here too, but they are amplified times 10. It's pure eggshell stealth. You're in this fairly wide open area with zero shadow cover and lots of enemies running around that can spot and shoot you from distant or unseen places. You have to go through it at a snail's pace because every corner there's something that can kill you. Now, to be fair, clearly Shanghai wanted to create a chaotic, unpredictable battlefield, and they did accomplish that. But it's the randomness of it, or the feeling of randomness, that shoots this level in the foot. Like, you know it's not fun suddenly getting blown up or shot with little warning. Like from a sniper on a rooftop placed to cheaply surprise players, or getting attacked by the tank that just happened to see me through a small opening in my cover. Yeah, okay. It's an absolute pain to get 100% stealth rating on this. It's pure trial and error, and the worst kind of it. And I would add luck to that too, because even when you think you have the enemy patterns down, there's still a chance you'll be randomly seen or killed. Everything about this mission's design feels like Shanghai trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Like they were trying to force Splinter Cell's mechanics into an experience that they weren't designed for. As if you're playing through a Call of Duty level with the gameplay of Splinter Cell. I love that Shanghai was trying to do something new and different here, but the slow, methodical mechanics of Splinter Cell, or perhaps I should say this generation of Splinter Cell, just don't gel with this sort of unpredictable, action-intensive environment. What should have been the most exciting mission of this game ends up being an irritating, eggshelly drag where you're constantly fighting against overly touchy AI and cheap level design. The second half of KINSASHA B fares a lot better. Sam will need to slip past automated turrets, searchlights, and trigger happy soldiers running around. And there's only one goal here: find the CIA mole and eliminate him. Or don't. The big choice in both versions of KINSASHA revolve around fellow government employee Hisham Hansa. Hisham Hansa is an undercover CIA mole who was outed in the KINSASHA mission. In version B, Hisham is introduced as Sam's snarky Splinter Cell buddy in the ICELAND mission, and in version A, he's introduced as your CIA contact in the Shanghai mission. Despite the differing introductions, the character is the same in both versions. In version B, Sam has to locate Hisham near the hotel pool and escort him to safety. It's not all that dissimilar to guiding Jamie through ELLSWORTH. If the player chooses to save Hisham, it's just a matter of leading him past the soldiers to the hotel exit. If they decide to eliminate him, well, that's as simple as pulling out your gun and—
Sam, I can't believe you just killed Hamza.
Emil gave me no choice. He has to believe I'm on his side.
In version A, Sam climbs a radio tower to eliminate Hansa via sniper rifle. And there's way more drama in this moment compared to version B. Not only are both Emil and Lambert in Sam's ear pleading him to make a decision, but to complicate matters further, Hisham is attacked by a machete-wielding soldier.
Sam, he's dying. Help him.
Are you kidding me?
You're distracting me. Shut up a minute.
Excuse me?
There's three options: shoot Hansa and be done with it, kill the soldier and save him, or do nothing and watch the soldier kill Hansa, which to me feels more sinister.
Oh my God, Sam. What have you done?
If Hansa dies, the mission ends here. But if you save him, the tower will be hit by a mortar and topple. When Sam comes to, he now has to make his way through more of the battlefield and save Hisham. And this is awesome. As much as I dislike this mission, this right here is the best moment of choice in the game, because it presents a new scenario that players wouldn't have gotten to play if they had chosen to kill him. And it's a shame more missions in Double Agent didn't do something like this. I mean, let's be honest, every choice up to this point, in both versions, have been pretty minor and surface level. Sure, we've gotten different cutscenes, some rewards, and a whole lot of stuff happening with our trust meters, but there's been almost no effect on how these missions play out. no true alternate pathways. KINSASHA is the only mission that substantially changes depending on your choice. Frankly, I think Double Agent would have been a more interesting and engaging game if Shanghai incorporated something like this into every mission. This is what was on my mind when I spoke of the bridge crew in the Sea of OKHOSKH, and how I wish your choice there affected how the end of the level played out. And even thinking back to ELLSWORTH, what if choosing whether or not Sam opened the cells determines how the mission ends? Perhaps one way leads to you cornered on the roof, another way perhaps has you vacating the mission a totally different way.
I owe you one, remember? Grab on. We're getting out of here.
At the mission's end, you make your way through a squad of soldiers and rescue Hisham by hand. The biggest challenge here is dealing with Hansa's brain-dead AI, as it has a nasty habit of running right in front of the people that want to kill him. Whenever I replay this mission, I tend to lose my patience and just take out the guards with sticky shockers. In the end, Sam gets Hisham to safety, and a convenient bombing is enough to fool Emil into thinking he's dead. Win-win.
Now I've killed him.
A man after my own heart. But one piece of advice: never disobey my orders again.
We're on the edge of great things, Fisher, and I owe it all to you. Without your work, we would have been betrayed, assaulted, and killed. Instead, we're on our way back home with everything we need to succeed.
The last mission of version A is the fourth and final JBA headquarters mission, the culmination of all your choices and undercover work so far. This is not the final mission of version B, however, but B's second and final JBA mission parallels this one and will be mentioned when applicable.
Let me introduce you to our latest problem. Jamie caught him inside the compound.
The start of the mission in version A hits the ground running with the biggest and most shocking choice of the game, whether or not to kill Lambert. In version A, he's caught snooping around the headquarters, and in version B, Lambert's cover as an arms dealer for the organization is blown.
Lambert's been captured. Dufresne got him a few hours ago.
What? What are you talking about?
And funnily enough, the choice plays out almost identically to the Cole Yeager choice from earlier. In version A, Emil hands you the gun and lets you decide by pulling the trigger. It's an evil moment meant to tug on the heartstrings of longtime fans, and so much of it feels unearned in a story full of disappointments. It's pure shock value with little substance to support it, but the weight of the scene is still massive, and unlike most choices in this game, what you do to Lambert will directly affect the course of this mission. As much as I prefer shooting Jamie, canonically, Sam does kill Lambert, and it is a painful moment. In version B, though, Lambert's choice is an outright letdown.
Lambert or the mission. If I confirm Lambert's cover, Emil might set him free. But then he'll still wonder who the mole is.
Once again, we are making this choice on a cold menu screen, forfeiting any possible emotional weight. I suppose we do get more of a reaction from Sam here, which is good.
I don't know anymore. I just don't.
But this doesn't remotely come close to version A. So long, Lambert. It's been a good one. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the remake.
Congratulations, everyone. Because of our tremendously successful test in COZUMEL, the bombs are ready to ship ahead of schedule.
The first part of this mission alters depending on your choice with Lambert. If you killed him, everything is easy peasy. No one's gonna give you a hard time. Although the restricted sections are somehow still restricted. Okay, this place is about to be raided and Emil just told everybody to arm up. Oh, and I did just do the ultimate show of loyalty. Who cares if I'm in the restricted section? Who's even policing this at this moment of crisis? And if you spared Lambert, everyone is alert and it's a lot tougher. But it is fun to play the headquarters as a full stealth level, and enjoy all of the sneaky shortcuts. Your choice with the cruise ship and Enrica plays into the next part. If you save the ship, killing Enrica, you have to find her body and scan her retina to access the basement, as well as sneak into the armory to retrieve your gear. If Enrica lived, meaning you blew up the cruise ship, she'll be waiting for you at the elevator to the basement. She'll hand you your equipment, her and Sam will have some parting words, and then she'll scan her retina and grant you access. And this scene really drives home the contrast in how both versions treat this character. In version B, there is an effort, though minimal, to create a relationship between Sam and Enrica, and you get a sense that he actually cares for her. In version A, he comes off as totally indifferent. Sam basically uses her. If Enrica dies, Sam shows absolutely no remorse for her, and doesn't even mention her for the rest of the game. Perhaps Shanghai left it up to player interpretation how Sam feels for her, because in the final moment the player can be violent towards her, motivated by Sam's supposed mistrust. It's a pretty gross moment that solidifies Enrica as a disposable, one-dimensional character meant for some eye candy. Yeah, that's mid-2000s gaming for you. The basement facility feels like a cross between a serial killer dungeon and a Resident Evil lab. And if you're wondering which one, any of them. They always have a lab. It's an odd-looking mission. The oddest-looking mission since the Paris morgue in Pandora, especially with the big, goofy red mercury reactor. Like, how are we powering this? Are we pulling off the grid? Is there like a ton of generators? Am I thinking about this too much? Yeah, probably. If you thought any of that looked over the top, wait until you see the basement facility in version B. It's like you're in the underground fortress of a Bond villain. Who laid all this concrete? How do you hide this? An important thing about version B is that there are 2 red mercury bombs set to go for Los Angeles and Nashville that must be disarmed. If not, they will be reflected in the game's ending during the credits, which is pretty neat, if not a little janky, with the sequence recycling a lot of cutscenes from the previous games.
We interrupt this programming to bring you a breaking news story. The United States narrowly averted catastrophe today as a 3-pronged terrorist assault was foiled.
Are you crazy? We'll die. We're going to die either way. I'm just making sure we have plenty of company.
What? What? He's insane! He can't trigger the bomb with us in here!
At the finale of the mission, Emil goes from revolutionary to garden variety madman when he decides to set off the red mercury bomb and kill everyone. Sam only has 10 minutes to prevent this catastrophe. The final area is a real son of a bitch. With exception of the perimeter, most of this area is under heavy spotlight, and you can't shoot it out, and you don't have your pistol, so no EMP. There's 2 guards patrolling the floor and 1 guy above on overwatch. And Emil is in an alcove of the reactor situated in such a way that trying to sneak behind him is impossible. Stealthing this is a nightmare of red flashes, and even going assault is an uphill battle. But the one gadget that can save your day? The ultrasonic emitter. Yes! You can get the guards moving away with it, and you can distract Emil with it. Now all that's left is disarming the bomb, and it's a series of mini-games. Save crack the computer, hack the computer, and then, oh great, it's that annoying bomb disposal minigame from the JBA missions. Who would have thought that minigame number 2 was going to be the final boss of Splinter Cell Double Agent? I suck so bad at this stupid minigame, and the worst part is that if you fail, you have to repeat the hacking minigame to retry, which is dumb. Don't punish me because I have to do something I've only done once before. I mean, look at where the timer was when I finally got it. Yeesh. In the end, the SWAT team busts in, and if Sam is there, congratulations, you beat Double Agent. If he's missing, well, sit tight, you're not done quite yet. If I ranked the final missions of Splinter Cell, JBA 4 would not be high on the list. Most of it is okay. I like that Part 1 switches it up depending on your choices, and while the basement is bizarre, it provides some decent stealth scenarios. The ending though just stresses me out and is a real pain to get through, and ending the whole thing on a minigame is so underwhelming and tacky. Thankfully, the finale of version B is a lot stronger.
This is where it all pays off! All the work, all the sacrifice, it ends here!
The JBA is executing its grand scheme, planting red mercury bombs in major US cities to bring the country to its knees. Sam is deployed with the New York team, and regardless of whether or not he killed Lambert, his cover is blown.
What's going on? It seems Mr. Sykes was right! Our Mr. Fisher is a traitor and a spy!
Authorizing the Fifth Freedom, Williams instructs Sam to eliminate all JBA forces and disarm the 3 bombs. Now this is how you end a Splinter Cell. The New York Rooftops is one of the easier final missions of the series, but also one of the more enjoyable. The first half of the mission has the player navigating the solemn snowy rooftops and smelly pigeon coops to take care of the unsuspecting JBA one by one. The layout offers plenty of advantages, a few alternate paths for ambushes, and big, comfy stretches of shadow to slither up for the attack. The highlight of the mission comes in the second half. Sam has to contend with a team of JBA equipped with night vision. It appears the guards have found your Achilles heel, until you realize that just like your own night vision, the light blows theirs out. And it's just a matter of treating the light like shadow to get the upper hand.
Son of a bitch! You got night vision, don't you?
Good guess.
This isn't the first time a Splinter Cell has used a gag like this, but it's probably my favorite use of it. Before, it was a matter of trying to stay within a moving spotlight in an isolated section. Here, it's a normal stretch of stealthing, except the rules have been reversed, and it's a fun shakeup.
Do not move unless I tell you to do so. The next one kills.
The conclusion of this mission, and of Double Agent version B, is a proper boss fight against a machine gun toting Emil. The player's goal is to reach their pistol and kill the fellow Chrome Dome. To do that, they'll have to get around explosive laser trip mines and, of course, Emil's gunfire. It's up to the player to figure out how to do this, using whatever maneuvers and gadgets they have in whatever way works best for them. And once they get their pistol back, it only takes a few shots to bring down the grumpy southerner. And that's that. Splinter Cell has never been one for good boss fights, but I think Montreal did as best as they could with this one, and it's far less stressful than the final confrontation in version A. Version B ends with one last CG cutscene of Sam reunited with Enrica, a far cry from their final moments in version A. Enrica is shot and killed by another Splinter Cell. Sam doesn't take it well and makes a snow angel out of grief. He then ambushes the Splinter Cell attacker, slices out his subdermal, and properly goes rogue, vowing revenge on Williams and the NSA. This finale is not considered the canonical ending of Double Agent. Williams never returns in another Splinter Cell, but I do think Sam's emotions better set the stage for the next game, where he's still very much pissed off at the NSA and remaining rogue. The true ending is a little more soaked and slippery.
I don't like this. He's late. Neil is never late.
Maybe he got held up or something.
We're not done quite yet. In version A, if the player satisfies certain trust requirements, they will be treated to a bonus mission that unlocks after the credits roll. Sam, wearing a SWAT team uniform that he clearly stole to evade authorities, infiltrates a small Coast Guard boat in the waters just outside the Statue of Liberty. I'm not sure why he swam in the bulky uniform, but hey, he is the professional here. On the boat is the final Red Mercury bomb and the remaining members of the JBA, including Carson Moose. Sam has only 10 minutes to disarm the bomb, kill the crew, and then kill Moose. To get the Coast Guard boat mission, your NSA trust meter has to be above 33%, and 2 of the 3 major choices have to favor the NSA, being the cruise ship choice, the Hisham choice, and the Lambert choice. For a first-time player, this mission can be maddeningly tricky. Killing the crew is optional, and if the player goes for it, they'll find it more than challenging with the boat's small size affording few places to hide. I mean, this is easily the smallest mission in the franchise. If you decide to skip that, the mission is very, very simple. Just slip through an open vent and climb up the ladder to Moose and the bomb. From there, you snap the big guy's neck and disarm. And a nice thing is that they don't make you go through that stupid bomb disarming minigame again. Sam just takes care of it automatically. After that, Sam jumps off the ship as it explodes. Not totally sure how that didn't ignite the Red Mercury bomb, but whatever. And we have a bombastic conclusion and a confirmation of more to come. One thing is for sure, from this point on, the Splinter Cell franchise would never be the same again. We've finally come to the end of the video, and now is the moment of truth. Which Double Agent, in my opinion, is the better game? Well, if Mr. Fisher had a knife up to my throat and forced me to choose, it's gotta be version B. For me, it's a more consistent Splinter Cell experience. The missions are sprawling, complex, challenging, and fun, and the gameplay, despite being copy and pasted over from Chaos Theory, is still excellent, if not quite as sharp as its predecessor. Oh yeah, it has its flaws. The story, while I think better handled compared to version A, is a disappointment, and the new concepts feel tacked on, and the visual quality is dodgy in some places. But nonetheless, it's another solid campaign from Ubisoft Montreal. With version A, I have plenty of disappointments. The story is half-baked, the new concepts don't reach their full potential, the mission design is pretty inconsistent, and some of the choices to make the experience more cinematic hurt the core stealth one. But version A has its merits. The visual presentation is some of the best in the series, and there are some standout missions that I always enjoy replaying. Ubisoft Shanghai missed the mark on a lot of things here, but I do respect them for trying to bring Splinter Cell into new territory. And to their credit, if we look at the later games in the series, you can see some of the thumbprints of Double Agent's design. While I have my preference, in all, the entire Double Agent chapter is a letdown, and I do consider it the low point of the series. Ubisoft attempted reinvention without really reinventing anything. Both Montreal's and Shanghai's contributions were ultimately surface-level improvements, and the trust system was a gimmick. That led to some interesting surprises, but the differences are frustratingly minor. Double Agent broke Splinter Cell out of its yearly release schedule. Ubisoft would allow time between entries to ensure quality. In fact, it would be 4 years until the next game in the series would see the light of day. And when Splinter Cell went through another reinvention, Ubisoft would make sure it was done to the fullest, even with fan protest. But that's a story for another time. Thank you so much for watching and sticking with me until the end. My Splinter Cell videos are some of the more ridiculous and indulgent things I make on this channel, but they are a great avenue to take a break from my typical first-person fun to talk about one of my favorite series. If you enjoyed the video and would like to see me do content for the rest of the franchise, and future unreleased entries, please like, comment, and share. That is a huge help, and as long as I know I have an audience for this, it's enough to motivate me. And if you didn't like the video, politely leave me some constructive feedback so I can make the next one better. If you're new here, please consider subscribing and checking out my affiliate links below. And if you haven't seen my previous Splinter Cell videos, they are linked below as well. I'm Kirk, and thank you for watching this video. Stay safe out there.